everybody. Welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And today we are talking about things that should be fun but are not fun.
I love this episode. This topic was suggested by a listener named Rachel. She suggested this in the Facebook group just sort of for giggles. And we're like, oh, this is our next topic. We announced it on the What Fresh Hell page. And Rachel said, oh my God, I feel like a celebrity because we picked her topic. Rachel, you are queen for a day because today we are
queen for a day. Gather your minions around and tell them all you are the queen.
So we asked all of our listeners to tell us things that should be fun but aren't. We have some hilarious answers. I'm going to start with Rachel's because Rachel,
she's queen for the day.
Queen for a day. Yeah, it's her episode.
Of course we should start with her.
We should start with what Rachel thinks. Rachel says painting her daughter's nails should be fun but is not.
I mean, I think that I'm such an old crone that this whole episode is just going to be me being like, that doesn't even sound fun. But you're right. I get why you would think like mommy-daughter manicures, that will be fun. But I mean, it doesn't even sound fun to me. It sounds terrifying and horrible and wet and messy and like it will end in tears.
I have never even thought that getting my nails done was that fun. Like going to like a nail salon, which if you live in New York City or live in any big city, I suppose, like there are so many nail salons in New York. Like
I think that's if you live anywhere now. Cause like I don't live in New York City.
Hit, like 6 of them.
Yeah. And like a new store opens and you're like, oh, maybe it'll be a ramen place. And it's like, no, it's either a bank or a nail salon.
Right. We buy everything on Amazon. And so any store that opens is going to be a nail salon.
Yeah. It's a nail salon.
But I've just always felt like this is a like tedious use of 45 minutes and $45 that I'll never get back. I've never found it like relaxing. I've always found it
definitely
sort of like
not relaxing. I think about that all the time because this has happened like 4 times in my life. But my nightmare experience is getting my makeup done and even getting my hair done. Like, I just think the idea of like I think about people being actors and starting your day every day, getting your hair and makeup done to me is the worst day.
It's great to have had your hair and makeup done.
That's true.
Right?
That's true. But getting it done, terrible.
Should be fun, but it's not.
I have to shout out my favorite book of all time. I mean, it's in my top 10, which is A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again by David Foster Wallace. Have you read it?
No. Is it 1,100 pages long? Because that might be.
Yes, he's a righty. He's a righty. I mean, he likes to write long
He was a writer,
things.
isn't he? Isn't he dead? I think he's dead.
Correct. That's correct. But he was a righty. Like he wrote this famous book called Infinite Jest, which is, 1,200 pages long.
1,200 pages long. Right.
Everyone carries around in college and acts like it's their favorite book. But like, it's kind of like, have you really read Infinite Jest? Probably not. But the book, A Supposedly Fun Thing I'll Never Do Again, is in my top 10. And it is all about this topic and features him going to like a fair and a cruise, and he's just a phenomenal writer and I love him very much.
So we should all read that instead.
It's the Illinois State Fair that he goes to and a cruise. Yeah, it's just all about like, why aren't fun things fun? And I love the topic. For me, I mean, the zenith of this, the absolute this is never fun and it is not fun for me is the beach. I just don't like anything about it.
It should be fun because we all spend a lot of money on beach houses and vacations and let's all go there for a week. It should be fun. It's the perfect example.
Right.
Like we spend a lot of money and effort getting there and then it's not fun. Why?
Because there's sand.
Because there's sand.
There's bugs.
There's water. There's sand.
There's water. No, I mean, literally,
shells.
like, I don't like to get wet. I've said this a million times. My sister is a master's swimmer. Master's means you take it up or you do it, I guess, later in life. I don't know. I think it's over 45.
Okay.
It means it's like intramural, but for oldies. Masters.
Speaking of things that are not fun, being over 45, right?
Yeah, it's not fun. Does it sound fun? It's not fun.
It shouldn't be fun, and it isn't.
Not
but
fun.
Anyway.
But she gets up at like 4:00 in the morning and like runs down to the water in LA and jumps and swims around in the ocean. And I don't like being wet. I don't like being cold. I hate like having been wet, like it ruins my whole day to get wet.
You don't even have to get wet to have a bad time at the beach. Like, I feel like you go to the beach with the kids. I've done this.
Yeah.
You drag your stuff a full 3/4 mile from the parking lot.
Correct.
The cooler, the thing, and the thing, and the, and the thing you
The
have to blow up
umbrella,
and whatever,
which
and
is
the bag
banging
and
against your calves and
the
like
shoes,
injuring your ankle bones.
Right. The umbrella, whatever. And you get there, and then it takes you like 25 minutes to set it all up, right? To get the umbrella
While you're
locked
like,
and
if
dug
you've got
in.
young kids, like while you're setting it up and being like, stay away from it, don't run away. Like
Right.
your toddler is like mauling the person next to you or like running into the waves
Right.
while you're trying to get the umbrella to stay up.
Right. And then as soon as you're finally set up and you get all four ends of the blanket weighed down and you hand out the sandwiches and the chips, as soon as all the food that you brought to last all day gets eaten all at once, as soon as the blanket is set up, then what happens?
Everybody starts to cry.
Everybody wants to go home. Everybody says, when are we leaving?
Well, yeah. And even if it's just sand in every crevice, like even the sandwiches, it's just sandy and gross.
Yes.
That's right. And then everybody wants to leave.
Sunscreen.
Terrible.
Right? And then the sand in the sunscreen.
And then there's someone next to you playing like bad 90s music, but like at a like volume. Like that's all you can hear.
Barely audible? That's so much worse. I mean,
you're not enjoying the song, nor are you in silence.
I have definitely, I think, off mic complained to you about the being in a hotel, like a resort kind of thing, and like looking at the waves, and you walk out of your hotel room to like walk along the beach without your kids at 6:30, because then that is kind of fun. And there's only one problem: instead of the sunrise and the waves, you have like blasting.
Not only have you complained about this on mic, but you've ruined my life. I never used to notice this, and we were just this summer, after discussing it on the podcast, we were at the largest pool in Texas, Amy, in fact, at a resort.
That shouldn't be fun and isn't fun.
Shouldn't be fun, wasn't fun. And yeah, it's just like largest pool. It's two words that shouldn't go together. Like there's nothing good about a pool being large. It just means more humans in the pool.
Right.
And more gunk being in the pool. But all this to say, I was so aware of the music from you. Like, of course, we went down early in the morning and it was just like Drake songs playing at full volume at an empty pool. Like the only time of day it should have been calm. And I was like, oh, this is the Amy Wilson problem.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even like they're trying to help out, right? They're trying to like elevate the setting, but silence is really
silence
underrated
elevates.
virtue.
I mean, we're very old to be having this conversation because we're like, I'm so my mother. I could hear my mother's voice being like, would a little silence kill everyone around here?
Well, just like we grew up without like the tinny phone speaker being available to you at all times. Like I don't need my subway ride to be filled with your Spotify playlist on iPhone speaker. I don't.
No, thank you.
I don't think it's fun. But I didn't think it would be fun. Back to the topic. I knew that wouldn't be fun to get on the subway with other people.
I mean, the beach, like when you're like catching a wave and like when you're sitting there, like having a cocktail and like chatting with someone with your feet in warm sand, like I understand why it's fun. I will say it gets more fun the older kids get, I feel like, because you can sit and chat with people depending on the kids play.
My kids like, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? I think the beach is only fun if not beach is available besides you walking 3/4 of a mile back to the car.
Oh yeah. A day trip to the beach is a nightmare. Correct. And my thing is that I just hate the sand so much. And so I set up like sand-free towels. And then like the kids walk over them and I'm like, that's the sand-free towel. Like I'm just going insane the whole time.
Trademark sand-free towel.
Sand-free towel. Guess what the sand-free towel is not. Guess what the number one thing about the sand-free towel is. It has sand all over it. That's
things
the
that should be sand-free but aren't.
It is things that should be sand-free that aren't everything at the beach. And then not only that, but then the sand is like in your teeth, in your bed, like somehow it's in your earplugs, like for the next 6 months. It's like glitter. You use it once and you think about it for the next 7 years.
Yes, one of our listeners called out glitter. Allison said anything involving glitter should be fun, but isn't. Definitely whoever invented glitter had the best of intentions. right?
Did they though, Amy?
I think they did.
Should I push back on that? What were they thinking?
I don't know what they were thinking, but I am giving them the like, this is joy. This is
Magical.
sparkle. This
Glinda.
makes things seem more magical. It does none of those things, but that was the intention. I have to believe that because otherwise I just give up hope.
There was. You just have
How do I
to
go
lay
on?
down.
I want to give a shout out
yeah.
to Mariana. Mariana says Nerf guns should be fun, but aren't. I totally agree. I mean, I've never
100%.
thought Nerf guns were fun for me, but they're not fun for kids either. Somebody's crying in 15 seconds.
I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. And the other thing about Nerf guns are two of my least favorite things. Well, the number one least favorite thing is their earth murder, right? They're just like styrofoam bullets.
And you gotta keep buying more because they get lost in the bushes. And
yeah, and they're just killing the animals. I don't know. That just feels like the deer are eating them and dying. And they're all over the lawn.
I was like, why are they worse than like Legos? It's because we're shooting them into our outdoor environment. You're saying that's like additional problem. More styrofoam among the
We're just like,
leaves.
It's not enough for us to be using styrofoam.
Right.
We're going to shoot 4,500 sticks of styrofoam into nature to just confuse and make the animal's digestion a mess.
It should be fun.
It is not fun. It is also, there's a whole other podcast episode that was 30 seconds of fun because I feel like a lot of these things are, the beach is 8 hours to probably have 35 minutes of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Nerf guns are $1,000 and 9 hours to have 15 seconds of fun.
So somebody is not having fun almost immediately. Somebody else might still be having fun. But in terms of it being fun for everyone, almost immediately that's not the case with a Nerf gun.
I once had fun with a Nerf gun. Should I tell you about it? Yeah. Or is that in opposition to our topic?
No. I mean, I'll allow it because they should be fun. So tell us about when it was fun.
During the pandemic, we have down the street neighbors. And they would, because it was the pandemic and there was nothing better to do, they would ride. They had an e-bike, which is some sort of bike that it's easier to ride because it has some sort of electricity involved.
Yeah.
All this to say that it was the dad and his 2 sons on the back of the bike. It was like a little cargo bike thing. And they would drive to our house on their bike. And those 2 sons would have their Nerf guns in the back. And they would start running circles around our house, like on our lawn, on the bike, and calling to us and taunting to us. And then we would keep an arsenal of loaded Nerf guns by the door. And we never knew when it was going to happen, but they would show up.
Nobody
you would hear like the blink, blink of Nerf bullets against the windows.
Yeah.
And then we would run out and there would be a quick, impromptu skirmish where we would shoot at them on the bike and they would shoot back at us and taunt us. And then they would go away. And it was extremely fun.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a special time, right? That's that's an asterisk. Like, okay, that
we
was a
needed
special time.
everything we could get during those years,
That's
and the fact that sometimes there would be a joyous, taunting Nerf battle that popped up out of nowhere. It got us through some hard days, people.
That's what it was. That was a time in our lives when we were all willing to meet any bit of fun, including our children. Willing to meet any bit of fun, 85% of the way, and being like,
good point.
Being stuck inside isn't all terrible. We're shooting Nerf guns at each other, right? And that you could carry that through the whole afternoon. And
yes,
I think we've lost that love and feeling, and I mean, for good reason. We need to get back to life, but we were willing to find things fun that really weren't a little more back then.
Yeah, we're skirting dangerously close, Amy, to a conclusion and a lesson here, which I don't think this episode is about. But we might revisit later on that, what is it that's keeping these things from being fun? I'm willing to consider it.
Okay.
Let's take a break, Amy. But first, we'll just be back complaining more about things that are not fun.
Right. Should be fun, but they're not. Heather says drive-in movies should be fun, but aren't. I mean, you know how on the survey they're like,
Is it 1 through 10 or NA, meaning like not applicable to your life? This is NA for me. I'm not a drive-in movie theater person.
Oh, where we go in the summertime, like 2 miles from our front door, is a drive-in theater. They make it fun. I'll tell you what, they have, because it's like also mini golf and it's also milkshakes. Like there's a restaurant and a mini golf and a little place to hang out. And then you go sit in your cars and watch the movie, which is sort of like the tail wagging the dog. It's why you came, but it's not the most important part. Sitting in your car watching a movie that you can kind of see and kind of hear past your kid's bedtime is not as fun as advertised.
This is my big beef with drive-in movies. There's a place which maybe is near where you're talking about that's too far from our house. And then this is the problem. For it to be warm enough to go to a drive-in movie in New York, where we live, yeah, you're going a movie starting at 8:30 at night.
Right.
And that's not interesting to me. Like, I can't see a movie that starts at 8:30 at night. And then it's like an hour drive. So every time we've ever thought about doing it, I'm like, that sounds like a nightmare. Like getting somewhere, dinner's been done for 2 hours. So I guess you're just snacking, but like you're watching a movie. It sounds horrible to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been to 2. I saw Scream at a drive-in, the original Scream, which was very, very good. Although I had told my friend who went with me, she's like, well, I don't want to go because I don't like scary movies. And I said, oh, I don't think it's scary. I think it's a comedy. Because I thought it was a parody of, I thought it was the movies
It
that
was
then
both.
parodied
It was
Scream.
the Thing and the, right. It was very meta.
It was like a slightly ironic horror movie, but it was still
Right.
a lot of like chasing
Really
and stabbing
terrifying.
and jump
Right.
scares. It was not a comedy. So that's what I mostly remember about seeing that. I was more in trouble because I'd brought a friend under false pretenses than that it was a drive-in movie. I feel like a drive-in movie is a good concept, but the execution is
fun.
just flawed. When I lived in California, you could go to like a, in the winter, you could go to like a 6 o'clock drive-in movie because it was dark and it wasn't freezing. And that'd be fine with me,
So
but I'm
that's
not
it.
interested.
Okay.
And
no
then in
qualms.
Texas, I know my family goes and it's someone brings a pickup truck. It's like a flatbed and they put bean bags in the back. Like, that sounds fine to me.
I'll allow it.
I don't like to be outdoors. I'll tell you the backyard movie, another thing I'm not that interested in.
Yeah. It's a lot of effort.
I'd rather be not being touched by nature while I'm watching a movie. I'm good with being in a lazy boy.
Bullet doing here? I'm trying to watch a movie.
Said that deer seems to be choking over there.
Priya says bounce houses are just money spent on tears.
Yeah. I mean,
They're fun until they're not.
agree, question mark.
Okay.
I do think that bounce houses are surprisingly lethal. Like they're stealth injury farms, which I
Yes.
did not realize.
Oh, they are. We had a kid come visit us from a program where you can have like somebody who like doesn't have exciting places to go in the summertime come stay with you for 2 weeks in the summertime. Anyway, it was a non-starter. Like you could not have a kid come if you had a bouncy house trampoline type thing in your backyard. No, thank you.
Well, I mean, I thought a bounce house, I mean, when we grew up, let me take you back to a time where a young person would see a bounce house like, it was like Halley's Comet. You would see one like once every 3 years. It was a thrill, like a bounce house would maybe appear at the end of school fair. I mean,
Right.
it was,
We're talking state fair once a summer.
oh, the
Dream of
sight
it all
of
year
a
long.
bounce house was
Right.
just like,
You're right.
oh, it was
right. Am I
like-
dreaming? Right.
am I dreaming?
And now-
Exactly.
Every first communion, right?
Oh, it's like people have them in their backyards.
Yeah.
I will say we rented a bounce house for like a 4-year-old's birthday party. The funniest thing is that we rented a bounce. I lived in Los Angeles and guy comes to set up the bounce house and he's like, look at my face. Do you have an iPhone? Take a picture of my face. And I was like, okay, dude, whatever. What? He's like, don't give the bounce house to anyone who's not me. Because apparently there was a whole scam in LA where people would go around and like steal other people's bounce houses, And like basically a guy would just come up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and with a truck and say, we're here to take the bounce house down. And you'd be like, sure, go ahead. They'd take it down. And they weren't the bounce house guy. They were
Oh my
stealing the
gosh.
bounce house for their own bounce house business.
Do you remember the news story? It was a couple years ago. There was a bounce house that I'm laughing.
Flew
'cause
away?
I think it all worked. It's okay. flew away, achieved liftoff with the
like
kid
60
in it.
feet in the air. Yeah.
And like, woo, yeah. They're it's not worth it. Not worth the trouble, I would say.
I mean, the biggest thing about a bounce house, which it just never occurred to me, my biggest memory of the bounce house is back in the day. I think they've solved for this. Back in the day, the floor of the bounce house was bumps, like a series of, like it looked like laying down, like picture like 12 hot dogs lined up next to each other. That's what the
Sure.
floor of the bounce house looked like,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And what I remember as a young child is that like you lived in fear if you fell in the crack between like the two hot dog bumps, you were dead. Like you couldn't get out and people would just keep bouncing around you and you would just be lodged permanently in the crack of the bounce house, like never to be seen or heard from again, basically.
That's the problem with the bounce house. Like there's one kid screaming and you can't get to them because 24 other kids are still jumping and flipping.
But I always thought, like, when people said bounce houses were dangerous, I was like, oh, it must be the old, like, suffocating in the crack of the hot dog.
The crack of the hot dog.
Which I still think happens, like, at the walls. You can still, like, slide
Yes.
into, like, crack
Yes.
areas and be, like, just basically trapped and screaming your life while a million married children bounce around you. But what really happens in bounce houses is kids bonk heads, that they bonk into each other with their heads.
Uh-huh.
And indeed, we rented a bounce house and my whatever, like 6-year-old self was just like, this is like if you told me when I grew up, I would have like Cinderella living in my backyard. Like the idea that there was a bounce house in the backyard of my house. And of course, my husband and I got in and bounced around in it for an hour. We were so excited.
Yeah.
But bounce houses, yeah, I don't know. I guess they're not great. I like the slidey ones still.
Let's go wide because let's go wide because Crystal is coming in hot with the entire category. Okay, she's not just coming for bounce houses. She says amusement parks should be fun, but aren't.
I'm gonna take the other side of this, Crystal. I like an amusement park. I am team amusement parks are fun.
Yeah, I like them too, but it depends on how hot a day it is and how long the line is for the ride.
Yeah, sure. They can go terribly wrong. I recently took 5 children to the amusement park, the local amusement park here. It's called Playland. I grew up going there. It's pretty fun. It's got
It's
like,
where prices
big
go.
rides.
So low.
Where prices go so low. That's Playland. And I took 5 kids. I mean, I want to say it set me back close to $500 to walk in the door. I got a non-participant wristband, which still wasn't cheap. Yeah, I'm sure it was a $500 day because also then I bought everybody, a Coke and lunch and whatever. $500 just on fire.
Those tickets are like when you go and you have to get like 4 tickets to ride this ride and 6 tickets
Yes,
to
I
ride that
will
ride
say,
and, like,
God bless them. They've
burned
gotten
money.
rid of that system, I think, almost
Okay.
everywhere. They've suddenly figured out, like, just let a kid in with a wristband and then they can go
Right.
wild.
Charge us astronomical
Yeah,
prices. for the
fine. I'll
wristband.
drop $500 and then I never have
Right.
to, like, deal with
all
another
at
ticket.
once. Because P.S. you were still dropping $500. It just was like $20 at a time.
Well, no,
And
I
more
dropped
sitting in
like
line?
it was $500 to walk in the door. Yeah. With the tickets, it used to be like you were
I'm
still
just saying it
dropping.
was still as much. You weren't
For
tricking
sure.
me. It just took longer.
No.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, let's just all stop living the lie. All right, let's
Mhm.
just all admit this is going to cost $500.
$500.
Let's just do
was
it.
Was it that fun? I guess that's what I have
Let
to
me
say. So
tell you that
5
we
kids,
got there and it
$500.
started pouring cold rain. It was supposed to drizzle. Poured cold rain, and we stayed for like I'm going to say an hour and a half. And
So,
I'm going to say
romance.
definitely not $500 worth of fun. They all rode the
Jessica-
dragon coaster once, and then they were like, "We're cold and wet," and I took them home.
Jessica says, I am not endorsing this point of view. I'm just saying it that Jessica says, especially the amusement parks that are mouse related, are not.
I'm going
Are-
to give
are
you
supposed to be
a
fun, but aren't.
hard. I understand. This is the two kinds of people.
Yes,
I
it is.
love parks. I love the magic. I love I just still have that. I am like an ultra consumer. I see the characters. I go insane.
Right. I love Disney, and I think it's because they at least figure out a way to keep it interesting, moment to moment while you're walking around and standing in line. Like, you don't see, Lilo and Stitch, at the fair where you have to pay tickets for the fire truck ride. I think it's more fun moment to moment. But is it perfect? No.
I love it. I love it. We decided we were gonna go once, and we kinda went all in. Although, of course, I was like, "We're just gonna go once and, like, no holds barred. Like, let's just save," and we saved up money for 2 years, and it was the dedicated fund, and I ki I kind of approached it like, "No holds barred. Like, let's do it up. We're only going once." And let me tell you, I wasn't even close. Like, we started to look at no holds barred. I mean, no holds barred is like a college education. I mean, no holds barred, forget it. I mean, we still ended up like, okay, we can save a little if we did that, and yet that. I mean, you still have to, even if you think you're gonna like spend a lot of money, you're still just getting in the door. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how much money it
Yeah.
was.
It's become an elite experience,
We
definitely.
went one and done. Like, we're spending it all. We're going, and I will say, we want to go back. We loved it.
Yeah. I like it too. But yeah, there are many factors that my husband tells the story of his family saving up. I mean, this is a long time ago. He was a kid. So let's say it's like the early 80s. They go to Disney World. They're staying in like in a hotel in like Kissimmee, St. Cloud somewhere. And it's pouring rain. And his parents are like taking it out on each other that it's raining on this Disney vacation that they spent years on, and I get it. Like when you hold it up that it's the most fun you will ever have per minute in your entire life, like almost anything's going to fall short of that goal.
Well, we've talked about many times, like expectation management goes out the window when you've spent all the money, and they tend to be really nightmarish experiences. And
Right.
I do think that because we planned a long time, and we were going to go at one point, and then it was COVID, and we kept kind of delaying. And the one thing we said was we were not going to go during a school break, and we ended up going during a school break, and it was crazy crowded. And I was kind of being the like, we have to get there early and beat the lines. I had to use the app. And my husband luckily was able to sort of talk me down off of that a little bit as let's just calm down. And we had a great time. I loved it. I loved it. I'm such a sucker for the like, come to Mario's Bistro. And it's like, there's like I don't know, like a car serving you dinner. I'm meant for that. I just love it. It tickles me.
Well, let's go something like that's like way smaller. It's supposed to be way more achievable
Okay.
and fun, and definitely marketed to all of us as fun family movie night. Like, won't this be fun? We're going to pick the perfect movie and we're going to sit on the couch together and snuggle and eat popcorn. Kate says that's what she envisions. And in reality, it's her and her husband on opposite ends of the couch flinching while their kids jump around, and there's popcorn everywhere. And there's like a zero movies that your kids want to watch that are okay for them to watch, that are tolerable for you to watch. There's a very short list of those, and they've watched them all already.
Well, I think one of the big problems with family, when we were growing up, again, all the times, it, it was again sort of special to watch a movie. Like, my kids will mention movies, and I say, "When did you watch that movie?" It's like they watched it on their phone
way
on
to
a
soccer practice.
bus
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
soccer games.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
And so I do think this is true. I think two things. Number one, you do not have to have popcorn. Popcorn is the nightmare of family movie night, and
That's what makes it not fun.
you don't have to buy into big popcorn. Like, you do not actually have to
You're
do the
right.
popcorn, because that part is very stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna throw this out there. We had I'm saying one very, very successful family movie. And it was the movie Little Shop of Horrors. Musicals, I feel like, make for good family movie nights, because when it gets boring, something's about to happen. Like, even my kids would be like, when are they going to start singing again? And I was able to say, soon. The movie Little Shop of Horrors involves some murder and some domestic violence. So, like, it's not for, but I was going to say my kids were pretty little. And that was the most successful family movie night we ever had.
Can I throw out Singing in the Rain? If you're gonna
Yep.
watch, like, family movie, that's a musical too. And again, like, not for 4-year-olds, but I'd say, like, 6 and up can totally enjoy it and nobody gets murdered and Singing in the Rain, and it's silly, it's fun, it's funny. It but I agree with you, Kate. Your point is well taken that the Venn diagram of acceptable and not terrible is so small.
Very, very small. All right, we'll be right back with even more things that should be fun.
Jenna says that baking with young kids, I thought this was a good one, is supposed to be fun, but it's not. She says it's just tears about who gets to sit on the stool, tears that you have to wait for it to be finished and bake in the oven before you can eat it. I regret it 100% of the time.
I mean, agree.
Mhm.
Agree. And then there's, people are like, this is organic learning. I get it. Like, well, if you need 3/4, how many of the 1/4 cups do you need? I kind of get it, but it's exhausting and terrible. And also sometimes there's burning. It's not great.
It could, I mean, I guess it could be useful or educational. That's different from fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. It's a bit of an expectation management thing.
Cindy says making sugar cookies with kids is an absolute abomination. Keep that in mind. Thank you, Cindy.
At least at the end, there's sugar cookies, though. I mean, that's a highlight.
The Mom Hour did an episode on fun and expectations around fun, so I'll link to it in the show notes just because some of our listeners mentioned it, and they had advice around baking, again. And I know this was supposed to be just complaining, no advice, but this advice from the Mom Hour I thought was actually really good, which is like when it comes to cooking with little kids, decide what the goal is and then worry about that. Like if the goal is for them to have fun doing it, then do not care what it looks like when it comes out of the oven.
Yes.
If it's for them to learn the math stuff, again, don't worry about the final product. If it is for them to worry about the final product, then like do it if they go to bed. Like think about what you're trying to get out of it and then pitch it that way. It can't be fun and not dangerous and not boring and no tear. Like all those things can't occur with one sugar cookie making event.
Yeah, and that certainly applies to all of the things. Like why are we doing this is a great question.
One we've often asked ourselves when it's 20 minutes into a day at the beach and the kids want to know when we can go home. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Because we thought it would be fun.
We thought it would be fun. And yeah, I mean, why are we doing this? Like, are we doing Disney because somehow we've been convinced that it is important to go to Disneyland as part of the American experience? Like, don't go. That is not a good reason to go to Disneyland. I mean, if we're going to Disneyland because like my kids are insane for Star Wars and the idea, like whatever, God knows how many thousands of dollars I dropped on Star Wars and like watching my kids see that rebuilt Millennium Falcon. I mean, it was amazing. And like, there's a part where the stormtroopers and Kylo Ren come out and talk to them. And like, it was great. My kids were it was worth the price of admission for us. And also my husband was like more into it than my kids because he's a super Star Wars nerd. And I was also pretty into it, And so,
well, maybe that's true. Maybe the point is your mileage may vary.
But
right?
I will say the number one thing I want out of a vacation is good sleep. Like I have finally realized, like as I prioritize things that are important to me on a vacation, good sleep is number one. That's all I care about is sleeping. And then seeing interesting things is probably number two. But I didn't sleep well at Disneyland. We had to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning. And then, we were up late at night. We did not get good sleep. And so I would not while I loved our trip to Disney, it was not a vacation. It was a family event.
Sarah, our listener Sarah, says that we should call vacations relocations because then you're reminding yourself ahead of time that this is something that's supposed to be fun.
That's correct. I mean, it's definitely the funniest headline episode ever, which is Mom does all chores closer to the water. And it's like, right, that's what vacation is, right? Especially when you have kids under 5. You're not taking a vacation if your kids are with you.
Right. So maybe, I mean, maybe this is all about giving all of us freedom to not do this stuff. Like, don't make Christmas cookies with your kids if you know they're just going to fight, or you don't even really like to bake that much, and like it doesn't sound fun to you. Like, exit now. Take the next exit
this
like,
way.
Right. Don't go to the drive-in if that doesn't sound like it would be fun, because even if it's marketed as fun, that doesn't mean it'll be fun for you, and maybe you can save yourself some.
Well, and learn as you go. So I have great memories of, one of my biggest Christmas memories is making the Christmas cookies. We have 3 Christmas cookies. We've talked about it before. If you say, what are your Christmas cookies? Like, a lot of people who, do Christmas will say, oh, it's these 3 cookies. That's how we are. And what
Your 3 cookies.
What I realized early, what are my cookies?
Yeah,
butter cookies, gingerbread men, and then we make meringues out of the gingerbread out of the sugar cookies, butter cookies. We only use the yolks for. So then we have egg whites. We make meringues.
Egg whites and
So I do like that, and I do want to recreate the memory of making with my kids. But what I realized early on is the kids only like the part where you're rolling out the dough and using the cookie cutters. And so they don't need to be involved in making the batter, making the cookie dough. I can do that the night before and put it in the fridge. I can even roll it out then. And they just kind of come by and like pick it, and then you blare the Christmas music, and maybe those batches kind of stink, And then if I want the good cookies, I make a couple myself because I know they're going to be the right thickness, and they don't like roll it out. So like the ears are burnt, but the feet are not cooked, Yeah. I make some nice ones by myself.
I made like magic bars, and then I have
magic bars.
Yeah. Do you know what magic bars are? Oh, you know what? We'll put these in the next newsletter.
I'm not putting my butter cookie recipe. How dare you?
Oh, come on. One of your recipes?
I'll put the gingerbread, but you're not getting the butter cookie recipe. Come on. Right. That's my mother would kill me.
Magic bars are readily available, that recipe, but saltine toffee is the one that I make, that like you make that and you bring that to a Christmas
and people go
thing,
nuts.
And then the next year they ask you to bring it. Like, can you come and will you please bring some of that saltine?
That does sound like a red light food for me. I have when I hit that sweet, salty taste bud, I just go nuts. It's my sister-in-law makes peanut brittle, and I beg her not to make it. I mean, I go from like enjoying peanut brittle to like joylessly like crunching as it like irritates the cuts in my mouth from the last round of it.
Yes.
And it's like, it's literally like, this peanut brittle isn't going to eat itself. And I just like joylessly am like shoving like and my teeth are like begging for mercy, and I'm bleeding in several places.
It's like leaden. It sits like a solid mass in your
stomach. Yet I don't stop eating
good.
The peanut brittle. That is my red light food. I can't have it around.
Jacqueline has a classic. She says board games with little kids should be fun, but aren't, because
I find it to be a huge personal failing of mine that we are not a game family. But we're not a game family, and I was thinking about it the other day as I walked by the giant pile of unopened board games that we have, because one has such things. We are not a game family, and I feel tremendous amounts of guilt about it. I feel that games are developmentally great for children. But I did my share of Candylands back in the day, but I'm not doing it. I'm not a game person. I hate games, and I'm not playing them.
We do kind of play them because I have a couple of kids who are really into them, and they are nice because you are sitting at the table and everybody has put their phones away, unless you're playing a game that uses your phones. And even that's better than everybody sitting in close proximity looking at their phones. There's a game called You Don't Know Jack. You can play it on the TV, but everybody uses their phone as like their player to play. So fun.
We were doing some Jackbox games during COVID, and they were fun. I like games where like you're connecting with other people, and it was a family activity. My kids like an escape room, but like, and I think I've shouted this out before, but I'll give it again because it's the one, we are the anti-game family. I hate games. But we did find this game called The Mind, and we love that game. It's so simple.
Yeah, like the right game, like a really good game is like my son likes one called Pandemic. It came out before the pandemic, and whoever you're playing with, you have to work together to beat the pandemic. And he plays it with his cousins every time they come, and they had to play like 5 or 6 times before they beat the pandemic, and it was like this huge, like the whole house was so excited. So
I wish. I'm jealous of game playing. I wish we were a game family, but we're not.
so pandemic is like, that sounds like that shouldn't be fun, but it is. Who can say?
Who can? It's the opposite,
But
Amy.
it's the I used to babysit for my goddaughter when she was first born, and we would play Candyland with her. I remember she was 3. So this was before I was even a parent. And they would like count cards and bury the, like, who's the princess that you draw in
There is no
Candyland?
princess in
Like,
Candyland.
there's some card you draw in Candyland, and like you win automatically when you get the card. It's some everybody's yelling at their phones right now, but there's some card you get, like Princess Gumdrop, and if you get that, like, game over, you've won everything. And we would play that, but they would carefully bury that card and like count cards and have that be the 11th card, and then she'd go first so that she'd draw the 11th card, which was always Princess, Plum-a-Lot, because otherwise it was just not, it was terrible.
Oh, I
So
mean,
you could do that, I guess.
anyone who's played Candyland has palmed cards in Candyland because it's like, we're not going back to the swamp again. We are almost out of this
Yes.
thing. Shoots and
Yes.
Ladders is that game too. You're just like, I just hate game playing. I just hate it. I hate it as an adult. I like cards. I love a good game of cards, but sitting around, I mean, I've said it before, the game where it's like, well, you're an elf level, and if you trade enough wheat, you'll get to go. I'm like, don't ever speak to me again. Lose my number. Forget we know each other. We can never. My sister and her family are
2 kinds of
big
people.
gamers. And I mean, those kind of games, like, we have an amazing new game. And then, I'll try to play it with them, and they're like, why would you trade hay for iron? You moron. And I'm like, I'm out of this family. I don't want ever to see you or hear you or think of you again.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas. Well, I don't know what I'm going to get you, but I know who I'm going to ask. We did an episode a couple months ago about, like, I've got a mom for that. Like, who's the mom you'd call for? And the mom I would call for, like, I need to get a game for this person. What's a great game? My sister-in-law, Diane, like, I don't know. I don't know where she sources this information, but she always knows, like, the cool new fun game. And so she brings it when we get together, or she sends it to you, and she knows. So I'm going to find a game. For Margaret.
It's
like an O.
I mean,
Henry
I've been
story.
at this
I'm going to get you the game
many
you will
decades,
love.
and I've only ever found one, which was the Mind. That's the game I like, but it's cards. I do like cards.
I'm going to set a challenge for myself.
Amy, one thing that sounds fun, is fun, and continues all the fun in the world is the subscription to What Fresh Hell Plus.
That's right. When you subscribe to What Fresh Hell Plus, not only do you get ad-free versions of our entire archive, hundreds and hundreds of episodes at your fingertips, but you also get very special bonus episodes where we talk about things that are not parenting related, but are super important to us, like the worst jobs we ever had or the worst fashion mistakes we ever made.
Let me tell you, there's so much to talk about.
Doesn't that sound fun?
It is really fun. It
more.
is really fun. I love doing the subscriber episodes, and I think they're genuinely fun to listen to. So go check it out.
It's at whatfreshhell.supportingcast.fm, or you can just click the link in the show notes for this episode. You just go tap, tap, and then you can keep listening where you already listen. You don't have to sign up for a whole separate thing. Costs $4.99 a month, and you support the show.
Love it. And with that, go have some fun or non-fun, and we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.